Are you one of those truck drivers that came home after a long haul and found the only thing waiting for you was a stack of IRS letters? Your significant other was gone, but your newfound IRS problem is still there. I've heard this story many times over the years. While I can't help you with your broken heart, I can fix your tax problems. If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or haven't filed for many years, call me for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. Like I always say, you keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest and then a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life. Lowering your high blood pressure could save you from a heart attack or stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
Now I'm, trying to get better, stronger than ever.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Stiction.
Found throughout the oil system, Stiction is the sticky friction that negatively impacts your engine's ability to function at an optimal level. The molecular structure of oil is a hydrocarbon. The engine's extreme heat, tight tolerances, and high pressure cause the oil to break down and release hydrogen, leaving behind varnish, a carbon-based deposit. The varnish clings to the engine's moving parts, creating drag on the turbocharger, oil pump, and pistons. Symptoms of Stiction include a rough idle and the loss of fuel economy and performance. Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator delivers a 98% clean rating in third-party scrub tests. Its synthetic cleaner plus nano lubricant contains no harmful solvents and is formulated to be left in the engine to safely dissolve Stiction for thousands of miles. It works as you drive.
Stiction Eliminator is available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Because Channel 19's a little congested. Call Steve now at 844-844-3388. The Overnight Drive.
Hey, you were talking about the Apex SEMA show there in Las Vegas. And Kyle made it sound like, they were pretty busy over there at the SEMA show and picked up a handful of, what are they, independent distributors, I guess you call them. And I do see that, what's it take to be an independent distributor? Who gets to be a distributor for Hotshot Secret?
So the distributors would be folks that have a reseller's license. So you resell product. Normally it is a diesel mechanic, a dealer. We call them dealers. Somebody that's got maybe 2 bays to 5 bays. I mean, we have large dealers. Then we have the smaller guys. It could just be one guy or 2 guys. Then we have different packages set up. They start at $500 and go up to $2,500. But we've got this, a lot of support for them. We have displays, things that explain what the product does, pamphlets, brochures, signage. So we try to work hard at making them successful. And then we have special salespeople that work just with them. The difference being, on the direct side or the dealer side or the folks that we're talking about, they usually want to talk to somebody that knows more about an engine, more about the product. They have to have a more product knowledge and technical savvy as opposed to sales savvy. Now, when you're talking to retailers, they want to know more about shelf pull, like how many bottles does each store sell? What's your advertising campaign? What's your data look like? They're not so much worried about the product that's in the bottle. They're more worried about how well they're going to sell it compared to the other things on the shelf. If you're a retailer or any retailer, it's all about the numbers. I've got X amount of square feet and I've got to make so much per square foot to keep the store afloat. So, you're either, part of the team that's making that happen, or you're part of the team that's getting pushed off the shelf. So it's a different type of conversation where normally dealers, it's their own personal reputation. They want to know that what they're selling isn't, junk or snake oil. So they ask a lot more questions. They want a lot more information. So we've set up a team of people that just deals with that, where they have a little more expertise in that field.
All right, gotcha. Well, like I said, I know I had shared where there was a handful, and I think last week there was 5 or 6 different new distributors that had been added to the network there, and some of them came, signed up at the SEMA show. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah. Well, no, and the SEMA show was busy. I was going back and forth between both shows, and SEMA was much, much more exciting than Apex. But the exciting thing about the dealers are that we have products just for them, like engine oils, things of that nature that those products could never be sold on a retail shelf just because there's not enough margin in it. Those places have distribution centers to handle, and then, trucks that have to take to the stores, and the stores have to make money. So they've got a much higher level of markup because their overhead is so much more. So there's some of the products we make, we choose to make them just because they're good products and there's a need for them in the market. Now, if it's not going to be sold on the retail shelf, that's fine. We'll sell it through our dealers or on our website. That's why we maintain all three channels of distribution. We're like one of the only companies that I know of that sells, on the web, through dealers, and then through retail. But each place has its own, just has its own world. Some people are really hands-on, and like myself, when I want to buy something, I go online, I research it to death, and then I buy it usually online or from where I want. Other people, hey, I go in and my mechanic changes my oil and I ask him what to put in it. Well, we want to cater to that guy also, give him the tools he needs. And then some people are, I always go to the store. I don't shop online, or, if I need something, I'm going to go to Walmart or I'm going to go to O'Reilly. So we want to make sure it's available for them as well.
Okay, very interesting. All right, let's get back to your calls here on a Friday morning. And Brad, thanks for hanging in there. Good morning, Brad.
Hi, good morning. Glad to hear you guys out there this morning. I got a list of things I was wanting to go over with you. I've never called into your radio show before. This is the first time I've called in over the years and gave some traffic updates, but I've never actually talked to Steve. I listen to the podcast mostly on Google Podcasts, and if somebody wants to get a good laugh sometime, they can listen to the speeded up version, because you can pick your speeds on podcasts, and when Monkey Gouger or Tex is on, you speed it up to about 1.5, and it really gives them a funny sound of their voice.
Really?
But what I really want to know tonight is I bought a new Harley-Davidson motorcycle, and the oil that it calls for is, of course, the Harley-Davidson brand motorcycle oil. But it also says that acceptable oils are oils certified for diesel engines. And they include CH4, CI4, CJ4, and the preferred viscosities are 2050, 1540. I was just looking at your catalog here, and I didn't know if the Blue Diamond 1540 or the Green Diamond 1540 would be a better oil for me. Those engines run very, very hot on those motorcycles.
That's what I hear. So either one of those would work. The difference is that the Green Diamond is a combination of the Group 3 and the Group 4, and then the Blue Diamond is just pure Group 4. So it would last longer, give you just longer service life. You wouldn't have to change it as often. So that would be your choice on which way to go. It costs a little bit more because just the base oils are more money. The same additives go into each of them. They're identical in that way, but a lot of people, like when we were doing the Blue Diamond, a lot of people would call us and say, I just don't have a need to leave it in longer, and I want something that's a lesser price point. Can you come up with something? So we pulled together the Green Diamond.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, I might go with the Blue Diamond then, because when you're out on the road on a motorcycle, you don't have to stop and do an oil change along the way. So that might be the ticket for me on that.
I use Blue Diamond and everything.
Do you? Yeah,
I do.
I mean, it only takes 5 quarts, and that should last a long time. Have you been to the Farm Science Review before this year for a display?
We have, yeah. And I've been doing the Farm Science Review for probably 25 years off and on. We used to do it. I mean, we've been going there for a long time, but it just depends on where we're at that time of year. If we're extremely busy, sometimes I haven't been able to put together the staff to be able to go and man it. But I think last year we were there. This year we'll be there again.
Okay.
No, wait.
Yeah, we stopped by the booth, and it was a rough year for the Farm Science Review. They canceled the show on Wednesday, and then the next day was so windy. We were there, and the wind just about took your tent away. I had a hold of one pole, and my wife had a hold of another, and your guys at the booth were piling on everything they could find that weighed something and duct taping it to the poles to keep it to the ground.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear about that. How much was that, Josh, out there? Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know which one it was. I don't know who was out there, but yeah, they were keeping busy with people, and I bought quite a few products from them. Do you ever?
Thank you.
Have you heard of the? I've bought stuff from you through Napa before too. Before I knew anywhere else I could get it. Have you seen the YouTube channel Project Farm, where he does the comparison of anti-gels?
I have. That was a really good deal for us.
Was it? Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Where at the end he actually tests the products to see if they'll run a gas engine, and kind of proved to me some of those cheap anti-gel products are basically a little more than gasoline with a little oil put in them or something.
Yeah, we didn't arrange for that or anything. That was like a surprise to us as much as it was everybody else. So yeah, that was a good deal.
Yeah, if anybody has any doubt about what the best anti-gel is out there, watch the YouTube channel called Project Farm. Just search it on YouTube, Project Farm anti-gel, and it'll come up. And what really impressed me was the corrosion resistance and the lubrication that your anti-gel product has in it.
It's hard to, I know I always sound like I'm overselling it, but it's hard to imagine how much work we put into those products. We really go at it from the idea of what is everything we can possibly do to make this product right, instead of what is the least amount of product you can do. And we've done packaged products for other companies, and that's kind of the approach they take to it is, how can we put a product out there for $10? Our price point's $9.95, so we want to buy something from you for $3 or something like that, and it's like, oh man. And then they'll, can we make this claim? That it's really a numbers game on what's the least amount of product that we can put in here and still make the claims. That's the exact opposite of what we do. We don't even look at the price point until the very last step. It's like, okay, what's the best it can be made? And then let's do that. And then the people that want to pay that, that's the audience that we'll cater to. Early on when the company, because I didn't know anything about running a company. I'm probably not that good at it. But back when it was just me and I was, learning, we had 5 people in the company and then 10 people. I thought, wow, this could go somewhere. I should start learning about how to run a business. So I started reading business books, go to the library, or I just buy them on Amazon. And one of the books I read was Good to Great. And they were talking about the importance of early on in your company, finding out what your purpose is. And they gave examples of how some companies go awry. And he gave the example of Zenith and Sony. And he said, back in the 80s and 70s, if you had a TV, it was either a Zenith or a Sony. Mm-hmm. And he said the founder for Zenith died, and the company just kind of floundered because they didn't really know why they were in business. And of course, now they're out of business. Sony, on the other hand, they knew exactly who they were and what they were trying to do, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. So I kind of talked to our team and said, what is it that we're really about? And we all agreed that it's really about solving problems. That's what we love doing. We love coming up with innovation. We love finding a way to, get another couple miles per gallon, or, solve some $3,000 problem for $25 or $50. So that's when we came up with the slogan, problem specific solutions. Like that's going to be our company mantra. We're not going to make power steering fluid or brake fluid. We're not going to chase down just business to have business. Our purpose is to find problems and fix them. So that's, really where we've stuck with, and so far it's worked.
That's great. I'm glad to see the success of your company. I use it in my Duramax. I use the everyday diesel treatment, and I'm looking at your oils and stuff, and I've always used Mobile One just for regular oil changes, and your oils are priced competitively with that, and they're obviously a little bit better quality. So I think I'll be transitioning over to that with all my motor oils as well.
Yeah, hopefully that'll keep going. That's a strange phenomenon that's happened the last year. The other oil companies have had these really big price increases. We've been getting hit with them too, but we're trying to maintain our pricing structure as much as we can and come up with better, more economical ways to do things and keep the product intact. But I think that the oil industry is going through some really big problems right now. We talked to somebody at the Apex SEMA show, and they said there's a shortage of zinc in the market. And they said, they're concerned that there won't be enough zinc to supply all the oil manufacturers in the future. I guess the EPA might have closed down a couple of mines, and then there's something else. Maybe the batteries are taken in. They're like, yeah, we're getting concerned that there won't be enough zinc, even to supply like the Walmarts of the world. I'm thinking, wow, this could be a really interesting year,
Yeah, you got to have the additives if you're going to sell the oil. Oh, one more thing before you go there. The transmission repair oil, you'd said it so many times there. What's it called?
Shift Restore.
Yeah. My wife had been complaining about slow shift in her Tahoe, and I never experienced it, but I don't drive quite like she does. So I tried driving like she does, and I actually experienced it a few times. And I put the Shift Restore in it, and I have not had any more complaints about the shifting. So I believe that fixed that problem. It was how a transmission acts when it gets a little low. It just kind of, the engine speeded up, and then it kind of slammed into gear, and it hasn't done that since.
That is a great process. I mean, it's one of those unsung heroes. A lot of times when, we're talking to the sales team and the marketing team, the FR3 and the Stiction Eliminator, the Diesel Extreme, those are the headlines in the EDT. And I said, these other products are every bit as good, if not better. I mean, the Shift Restore, the TBM booster, it's like you have to find a way to tell the story to educate the consumer so that they can have the opportunity to try these. But I'm with you. I love the Shift Restore. It's just a really, really great product.
Yeah, I put it in a power steering pump on my Duramax too, because it uses the Hydro Boost for the brakes. And you need all the help you can on the cold winter with the brakes on those. Just the power steering fluid. If it's cold, you don't have the braking that you normally have. So I haven't experienced cold weather with it yet, but hopefully that'll even help in the cold weather with the braking on the Duramax.
Oh yeah, well, good. That's good intel too. I'll have to think about that.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Brad. Brad, I've got your number here. You've got you went through all your points, yep, and I've got you. Hey, first-time caller, though. Don't be a stranger now. All right. It was good to hear from you, and we'll help you get started on transitioning to the diamond oil. And with that, okay, first time this morning, we've got clear lines. It is 844-844-3388. That means jump on in here. Of course, we just kind of threw the clock out the window, a little bit behind here, but it's news break time. The Steve Sommers Overnight Drive live from the Hot Shot Secret Studios.
It's Steve, and yes, I'm off this morning, but here's a replay of one of our interviews with the founder and CEO of Hot Shot Secret, Chris Gabrelchik.
USA Radio News.
President Joe Biden is seeking Supreme Court nominee advice amid criticism to nominate the first black woman to the country's highest court. Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Roger Wicker spoke to ABC News.
The fact that he's willing to make a promise at the outset that it must be a black woman, I got to say that's offensive. It's actually an insult to black women.
The irony is that the Supreme Court is at the very same time hearing cases about
about this sort of affirmative racial discrimination.
A recent ABC News poll shows 76% of Americans want Biden to consider all candidates. Pfizer is asking U.S. regulators to authorize extra low doses of its COVID-19 vaccine for children under 5. The move could open the way for the very youngest Americans to start receiving shots in March. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, I'm Wayne Alaroot for Patriot VPN. Patriot VPN is a virtual private network service that uses military-grade encryption to protect your internet connection on all of your devices. With Patriot VPN, your data and internet privacy is secure anywhere in the world. Why do you need Patriot VPN? Cyber criminals, government, even your own internet service provider collect and use your private information without your knowledge. Examples in the news recently, remember all the companies that have been hacked? Cuba censored the internet to kill protests? Here in America, conservative groups are being actively targeted. Your personal information and internet history is being sold by your ISP. It's all happening every day, but not with Patriot VPN. With Patriot VPN, your internet activity and history is protected from prying eyes forever. Patriot VPN is a veteran-owned business right here in the USA. For business or your family, starting at only $6.95 a month, use code WAR and get 3 months free. With an annual subscription, it's all at PatriotVPN.com. That's PatriotVPN.com.
Super Bowl tickets are on sale, and if you plan on seeing the game in person, it will cost you a pretty penny.
It'll cost more than $6,000 for a seat in the nosebleed section to watch the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 56. Secondary markets like StubHub and Ticketmaster are selling seats in the top level of SoFi Stadium for at least $5,500 plus almost another $1,000 in fees. The really good seats are going for around $78,000. From the USA Radio News Phoenix Bureau, I'm Tim Berg.
A majority of people say there's a growing cancel culture that threatens freedom, according to the latest Foundation for Individual Rights in Education poll. While 73% of respondents acknowledged having heard of the phrase cancel culture, there were 59% who were convinced it's growing and a threat to liberties in America. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, and I want to tell you that arthritis is not a genetic thing. It's not a disease of aging. Neither is osteoporosis. Get a hold of my book. It's all in your head. It goes into the 25 different diseases you get when you have osteoporosis of the skull. These are all reversible. You take the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the MSM, vitamin D3, stay away from all the bad foods, including gluten, and guess what? You'll regrow all your bones, including your skull and your legs and your hips and everything else. Contact us at usaradiohealth.com. That's usaradiohealth.com.
A federal judge has rejected a hate crimes plea deal for Greg and Travis McMichael.
A federal judge rejected a plea agreement Monday that would have averted hate crimes trial for father and son Travis and Greg McMichael, convicted of murder for fatally shooting Ahmaud Arbery, whose parents angrily objected to the deal. The deal would have allowed the convicts to go to federal prison. The family of Arbery want them in state prison.
I told them that I wanted them to go to state prison and do their time that Judge Wansper gave them on the 7th of January.
From the West Coast USA Radio News Bureau, I'm Lance Pry.
A major winter storm is expected to affect a huge portion of the U.S. Heavy snow is forecast to start in the Rockies, while freezing rain will pelt Texas. The storm will then move on to dump snow and ice on the Midwest. More than a foot of snow is forecast in places. Airlines grounded more than 1,000 flights scheduled for Wednesday. A suspected gunman is now in custody after 2 campus officers were fatally shot at a private liberal arts college in Virginia on Tuesday. In an email to students, faculty, and staff, Bridgewater College President David Bushman identified the victims as police officer John Painter and safety officer J.J. Jefferson. The gunman allegedly shot the officers around 1:20 Tuesday afternoon and ran away. And fired Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores has sued the NFL and 3 of its teams, alleging racist hiring practices by the league. For USA Radio News, I'm Katie Lewis.
This is the Overnight Drive with Steve Sommers.
As we roll on through the late night, early morning hours, got a Friday coming on here. Great to have you on board. And you got the lines available at 844-844-3388. Before we get back to the calls, I want to throw this out there. I don't know if you pay much attention to what's happening elsewhere around the world with this whole COVID thing, but as of the midnight hour, November 15th, Austria began a nationwide lockdown, trying to rein in, supposedly, the COVID cases. What makes the lockdown unique is that it only applies to residents ages 12 and older who have declined to receive the vaccine. Now, there's an exception made for unvaccinated individuals who have recently recovered from COVID there. But if you're not vaccinated, you're only permitted to exit your front door for, quote, essential work, essential shopping such as food, quick exercise, or to go get the vaccine. All other outdoor leisure activities are forbidden. This lockdown is reportedly affecting an estimated 2 million of the 8.9 million residents there. And they say random spot checks to make sure no healthy, unvaccinated people are roaming the streets. Fines for breaking the lockdown runs as high as $1,640. And now I'm looking at headlines. Drudge had the headline where Germany is about to begin a similar scenario, a lockdown. Only the unvaccinated aren't allowed to leave their homes. What is this world coming to? Do you see that at some point maybe coming to the United States, Chris?
No, I don't think we'd ever put up with it. I mean, this is like one world order crap going on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on a blog with a guy from Canada, and it was a vaccine thing. I don't know how I got on it, but I started reading it, and basically he was saying that this is coming to you. There's nothing you can do about it. They're going to lock you down. They're going to use the army. I said, that won't happen here. He said, oh yeah, it's happening here in Canada. I said, yeah, we have guns. You don't. It's like, I think there's 1.2 guns for every U.S. citizen. It's like, there comes a certain breaking point where I think people just get frustrated. It's like, yeah, I'm not putting up with that. And I think we have enough conservative lawmakers that they would, hopefully they would never let that happen. But holy smokes, that is just, that's crazy. That's really, really crazy.
Well, like I said, that's the headline. That, Germany, I guess one of our last acts, Angela Merkel, they're talking about doing the same thing, not letting, unvaccinated aren't allowed to do anything as far as going into restaurants, bars, any public venues or anything. It's just, it is insane. Oh, well.
Just what worries me so much is that it's not about the science. It just seems like they're so hard pressed to get everybody to do this, whether it makes sense or not. There's plenty of treatments for it. There's ways to make things better, but they are dead set on making everybody take that vaccine, and that just worries me to no end. I was at a board meeting, and several of the board members were on hospital boards, and they were lamenting the fact that there were so many unvaccinated people and they didn't understand this. And, the hospitals got a lot of business going on and they're booked and this and that and the other thing. And then, I spoke up and just said, I think that the frustration is that there's no liability. And I said, well, what would happen if I took the vaccine and I was paralyzed? They're going to send me into a hospital room and say, sorry for your luck. By the way, you have to pay for this for the rest of your life. I said, which, on one hand makes sense, but on the other hand, when you look at, Pfizer's a $200 billion company. Moderna's, these people are making billions of dollars on this. And there's zero liability. None. So it's like, if this is so safe and everything's so kosher, then why don't they say, hey, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. If anything happens, we'll pay for it. You don't hear that.
Yep. Valid point.
Which to me is a big red flag.
Yeah, I shared the Moderna numbers last night or night before. That Moderna, I believe it was their third quarter. They made $197 billion total. 180 something billion of that was from the COVID vaccine. So go figure. That is, so you take the COVID vaccine out of their 197 billion, they've only made less than $10 billion.
Mm-hmm.
COVID is making them a very, very, very rich company.
Yeah, I think, I guess the last 60 days I've kind of turned my attitude around a little bit in terms of I used to kind of keep my mouth shut and just try to stay out of the way. And now I'm not that way at all. It's like, if it comes up and somebody brings it up, I express my opinion. It's like, I think that people have to start saying that and being more, just more honest about it. It's like, no, I don't feel comfortable with this, and this is why. I mean, I'm not going to be rude or obnoxious about it, but at the same time, I think we have a right to express our concerns and have a right to not get the vaccine if we choose not to do that. It just seems like the silent majority needs to maybe not be so silent anymore.
All right. Let's get back on track. But Scarecrow, how the heck are you? Good morning.
I've never done better, Steve. I can taste the weekend coming,
Yes, sir.
Doesn't get any better than that. Chris, welcome back. The way I understand it, this will be our last conversation before the end of the year. So given we're not all that politically correct around here, well, I'm going to wish you the merriest of Christmas that's available. There's right at
you. Same to you,
I don't
man.
have any.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I don't have any direct questions for you here tonight, Chris, but pay attention because you will be tied in here. Now, Steve, I kind of suspect that you'll be getting a complimentary invitation to that Christmas party that Chris throws there, even though we know you're not going to be able to attend. And I fully suspected that we were going to hear from Horse Feathers tonight about that very issue.
Yeah.
Now, given that you're probably going to be in possession of this invitation, and we know Horse Feathers really wants to go to that party, I see a financial windfall in this for you. What do you think?
How much you think what's the going price? What do you say?
Well, I don't know. It sounds like quite the chivalry that Chris puts on there. Now, I don't know if Chris could be upfront about it. It's probably sound like it's almost priceless, huh?
It has been in the past. Now, in full disclosure here, the larger the company is getting, the harder it is to do those types of parties. So we're calming it down a little bit this year, so there won't be near as much things going on. It's, we're trying to formalize it a little bit, use it as a chance to give people, awards and recognize people that have done a really good job. It's really one chance. I don't know about you guys, but very seldom do you get to really get dressed up and go to a formal event. It's just not part of my life normally. You know what I mean? So we kind of wanted to give everybody a chance to get dressed up, bring your families, be recognized, make it more of a, higher end type of thing. It's in the past we'd get a band. In the past we get a band, have an open bar, and just have a big party. But we're trying to make it a little bit more higher notch than that today.
I suspect Horse Feathers is probably bowing his head a little bit at this very moment. But well, we'll leave that between the three of you then. And Steve, a bit of a favor. Since the after hour demise, I don't have means to get in touch with Big Moose there. I got a little trinket for him I ran into. If he's at all interested in it, I'm going to email a picture of it to you in a bit. If you could forward that to him somehow, along with my number, that leave it up to him if he wants to decide to share his contact information with me or not. Let's see, what else did I have going here? Regarding last night, towards the end of your show, you're talking about the chase cars, for that U2 and the Camaro and all. Well, the Dodge Challenger, or I'm sorry, the Charger, that seems to be the go-to car these days. I'm thinking probably it's cheaper to repair than the Camaro. I don't know why else, but the longevity isn't all that great. The boys, they like to really throw it at them. But yeah, you were right. You know, visibility from the cockpit in those planes is non-existent. They, that nose with all the electronics and whatnot, it sticks out there so far that, you know, they cannot see the runway on takeoff or landing. So either way, and I guess there are Audis that they'd probably use over in Great Britain and such, but let's see, I'm trying to think there's one other thing. I was curious. Given the anniversary of the program here, how did you guys get the word out that you were back on the air? Did you send text messages out to previous callers and then, let word of mouth take over? I hadn't called prior to April, when I discovered you the second time, and that was only because I heard your promo on 700 there. That's what hooked me back in. But I'm figuring somewhere along the way, you guys had to get the word out that you were going to be making the airwaves again.
Most of that, 90% of that, it was social media. I mean, Facebook, I shared it on Facebook. Hot Shot Secret shared it on their Facebook and their YouTube. And I'm right there, like 4,000 Facebook friends. So, there's a bunch of them out there, and many of them would also share it with their friends. So really, it was, for the most part, social media. Anything else we did, Chris?
No, that was primarily it. It was a Facebook push. We were doing our Facebook Live at the time, so we were, talking about it on there. And then I think they may have done an AdWords campaign, but we didn't. We have not gotten together yet with a full, full court press yet. That's really one of the things that we're planning for first quarter of next year is to do something like at truck stops. We're looking at some other national radio programs to advertise the overnight drive on.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been a Facebook person and such, and given all the comments that I hear on a nightly basis, I'm thinking maybe I'm missing out on something. We may have to step up to the modern world here one of these days. So either way,
I'm with you.
That's.
I don't have Facebook either. When they canceled Trump, I canceled them and said, you know what, forget it. But it does. It's almost crippling. Everybody uses Facebook for so much. It's hard to exist without it.
Well, we're so far behind the times in our household and such. My wife, she does the Facebook and all, but we kind of each, with Christmas coming now, we're kind of wondering what our boys are going to try to update us with, this time around. It'll be something electronic. Last year was one of those Nest thermostats. Well, I don't have to be able to turn my temperature up and down from 100 miles away or whatever. we had programmable thermostat prior to that did just fine. Well, and given that our furnace is 40 years old, it turned out the transformer in it wasn't big enough to keep the Nest charged once we got into the air conditioning season. So I had to go out, and no big deal, just go out and buy a auxiliary transformer and tie into that Nest and whatnot now. But so yeah, it's through a curiosity, whether it'll be one of them Ring doorbell things or whatever.
Yeah,
We've never even had a doorbell, so it'll be something electronic, I guarantee you. So with that, we'll let there, and maybe there's actually a tech question waiting there. So well, thanks again, Chris, for making this all happen, and we're going to do this again. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Scarecrow. Have a great morning. Yes. Pappy said, hey, whatever Horse Feathers bids, I bid $1 more. All right. With that, we close things out for another hour. We got 1 hour yet to go, though. 1 full hour just ahead. And room for you at 844-844-3388. The Steve Sommers Overnight Drive live from the Hot Shot Secret Studios.
It's Steve, and yes, I'm off this morning, but here's a replay of one of our interviews with the founder and CEO of Hot Shot Secret, Chris Gabrelchik.
USA Radio News.
President Joe Biden is seeking Supreme Court nominee advice amid criticism to nominate the first black woman to the country's highest court. Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Roger Wicker spoke to ABC News.
The fact that he's willing to make a promise at the outset that it must be a black woman, I got to say that's offensive. It's actually an insult to black women.
The irony is that the Supreme Court is at the very same time hearing cases about this sort of affirmative racial discrimination.
A recent ABC News poll shows 76% of Americans want Biden to consider all candidates. Pfizer is asking U.S. regulators to authorize extra low doses of its COVID-19 vaccine for children under 5. The move could open the way for the very youngest Americans to start receiving shots in March. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, I'm Wayne Alaroot for Patriot Vpn. Patriot Vpn is a virtual private network service that uses military-grade encryption to protect your internet connection on all of your devices. With Patriot VPN, your data and internet privacy is secure anywhere in the world. Why do you need Patriot VPN? Cyber criminals, government, even your own internet service provider collect and use your private information without your knowledge. Examples in the news recently, remember all the companies that have been hacked? Cuba censored the internet to kill protests. Here in America, conservative groups are being actively targeted. Your personal information and internet history is being sold by your ISP. It's all happening every day, but not with Patriot VPN. With Patriot VPN, your internet activity and history is protected from prying eyes forever. Patriot VPN is a veteran-owned business right here in the USA. For business or your family, starting at only $6.95 a month, use code WAR and get 3 months free. With an annual subscription, it's all at PatriotVPN.com. That's PatriotVPN.com.
Super Bowl tickets are on sale, and if you plan on seeing the game in person, it will cost you a pretty penny.
It'll cost more than $6,000 for a seat in the nosebleed section to watch the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 56. Secondary markets like StubHub and Ticketmaster are selling seats in the top level of SoFi Stadium for at least $5,500 plus almost another $1,000 in fees. The really good seats are going for around $78,000. From the USA Radio News Phoenix Bureau, I'm Tim Berg.
A majority of people say there's a growing cancel culture that threatens freedom, according to the latest Foundation for Individual Rights in Education poll. While 73% of respondents acknowledged having heard of the phrase cancel culture, there were 59% who were convinced it's growing and a threat to liberties in America. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, and I want to tell you that arthritis is not a genetic thing. It's not a disease of aging. Neither is osteoporosis. Get a hold of my book. It's all in your head. It goes into the 25 different diseases you get when you have osteoporosis of the skull. These are all reversible. You take the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the MSM, vitamin D3, stay away from all the bad foods, including gluten, and guess what? You'll regrow all your bones, including your skull and your legs and your hips and everything else. Contact us at usaradiohealth.com. That's usaradiohealth.com.
A federal judge has rejected a hate crimes plea deal for Greg and Travis McMichael.
A federal judge rejected a plea agreement Monday that would have averted hate crimes trial for father and son Travis and Greg McMichael, convicted of murder for fatally shooting Ahmaud Arbery, whose parents angrily objected to the deal. The deal would have allowed the convicts to go to federal prison. The family of Arbery want them in state prison.
I told them that I wanted them to go to state prison and do their time that Judge Wansper gave them on the 7th of January.
From the West Coast USA Radio News Bureau, I'm Lance Pry.
A major winter storm is expected to affect a huge portion of the U.S. Heavy snow is forecast to start in the Rockies, while freezing rain will pelt Texas. The storm will then move on to dump snow and ice on the Midwest. More than a foot of snow is forecast in places. Airlines grounded more than 1,000 flights scheduled for Wednesday. A suspected gunman is now in custody after 2 campus officers were fatally shot at a private liberal arts college in Virginia on Tuesday. In an email to students, faculty, and staff, Bridgewater College President David Bushman identified the victims as police officer John Painter and safety officer J.J. Jefferson. The gunman allegedly shot the officers around 1:20 Tuesday afternoon and ran away. And fired Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores has sued the NFL and 3 of its teams, alleging racist hiring practices by the league. For USA Radio News, I'm Katie Lewis.
All right, welcome back. Final hour here on a Friday. We're into the 3rd day of December. Wow. Another year winding down. Chris, I was looking over the rest of our Dumbass of the Week nominees. I almost forgot to get back to those. Obviously, you recall our first DA of the Week was there in Florida, only in Florida. You got a lot of dumbasses down there, Chris?
Apparently. I mean, I haven't noticed them, but you got some good stories.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I pulled up the rest of the list. Chris, every DA of the Week nominee is from Florida this week. I don't know if Brain Dead did that intentionally or what the case was, but literally every one of them.
Maybe. Well, I think he's just trying to say this is why Chris is there, because he's one of them dumbasses.
A Florida woman has been arrested after pulling a gun on an employee while at the Popeyes drive-thru window. 26-year-old Chelsea Lumpkin was in line at the drive-thru when a disagreement broke out with an employee. Lumpkin requested another employee to prepare her order. According to investigators, at some point during the argument, Lumpkin pulled out a firearm, waving it at the air, saying, "Bitch, don't fix my food." Investigators did locate the handgun on Lumpkin's purse, noted that the woman does indeed have a concealed carry license, but I guess the license does not necessarily give you the right to whip it out and just threaten anybody with it at any given time.
Gosh.
Oh,
that's something seriously wrong there.
Let's move on to a Florida man. A Florida man facing aggravated battery charges after stabbing a woman in the head with a fork after a disagreement over a potato. Deputies say an argument started when 36-year-old Kenneth Crumpton became angry over an undercooked potato on his plate that the woman made. Stabbed the woman multiple times in the head with his fork. Let's see. Investigators say the woman had multiple stab wounds and was bleeding from her head, but refused treatment. I don't know. If I had to wager a guess, I'd say that probably, I don't know, maybe a bit of alcohol may have been involved in that little domestic disagreement, you think?
I'm betting you're right on that.
Undercooked potato. And one more from Clearwater, Florida. A Clearwater man arrested Thanksgiving morning after getting into an altercation with a pair of sisters over using gym equipment. People fight over the craziest things. An affidavit states the sisters were using an exercise machine while the man, identified as 78-year-old Robert Dworak, was waiting his turn. Yeah, the man then sat on one of the women and used the machine instead. When the other woman told him to get off of her sister, he pushed the woman away. Yeah, he then admitted to pushing the woman, and witnesses say he was the aggressor in this case. He's facing simple battery. So I guess he's at the gym or whatever. It's like, come on, woman, I want my turn on the machine. Oh, well.
Yep. And he was 78 years old.
78 years old, yes.
You know, I wonder sometimes with all the... It seems like this whole COVID thing and the way they keep getting all the nervousness about it, if it's not creating so much stress and angst amongst everybody that these things are happening because everybody's just so wound tight. You know, it seems like we are not a calm, cool, collective society as we were 2-3 years ago.
And every time you turn around, you're seeing a story about passengers on flights, aggressive, angry, and just, violent outbreaks on planes. It's crazy. Hey, well, let's get back to our... Go ahead.
It is kind of irritating the way they make you wear masks all the time, and now they're not serving drinks on like Southwest. I don't know that they're helping anything. At this point, they're just kind of adding to the difficulty here.
Frustration factors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not fun. You have to get there 2 hours early because of the terrorist stuff. And then, you have to sit there with a mask on for 2 hours and then another however many hours on the flight. And, oh, by the way, we're not going to let you have any beer. It's like, oh, that helps.
Wow.
Who thought this system up?
I did have a question via the email from Phil. Can you ask Chris, do you need to leave oil out of your engine to add the Stiction Eliminator on a gasoline engine?
Yes. It's easier to put the Stiction Eliminator in first and then top it off with oil. But yeah, it replaces oil. It's going to displace however much you put in. On a gas engine. It's usually like 8 ounces or 16 ounces or something.
So the answer to your question is yes, sir. All right. Rob's on the line. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Steve. Morning, Chris. How are you?
Good.
Great.
I listen as often as I can. I don't get to listen all the time. I've heard you talk about, Chris, about the shift restore. I think someone had either emailed or called in about its use in, or actually it was the FR3 in hydrostatic transmissions, like say, for instance, in riding lawnmowers. And I haven't heard anything mentioned about using shift restore in hydrostatic transmissions on lawnmowers. I've got a piece of property here. It's an old farmette I purchased back in 2003, and some of what is now lawn was pasture where animals were raised, and it's a little rough, and how stones keep coming up a little closer to the surface every year with the frost that we have here in Wisconsin, and so I built myself a lawn roller, and I have a tendency to overkill things, and heavier is better. You want to push the stuff back down and make it smooth as a pool table, so when you're mowing, you can go faster. But I took out one of my hydrostatic transmissions in my lawnmower about 10 years ago, and that was an expensive learning mistake. That is probably the most expensive part of the lawnmower, is that rear end in that thing. And since then, I have 3 riding lawnmowers totally. Each one's got its own purpose. I mow quite a bit of grass, but I'm never going to let that happen again. So I stopped using a lawn roller with my lawnmower, and I just use it for like plugging or aerating and thatching. But I want to take care of the hydrostatic as best I can. And my newest lawnmower, I noticed this summer, was I recognized the signs right away, where it started to get a little noisy, and I could feel vibration in my foot pedal. And I'm like, okay, this is where you stop, Rob. Don't keep going with this, because this is only going to get worse. So I drained all the fluid, got the 2 replacement filters. And I remember what you said that shift restore does is it cleans out like the little oil passageways and stuff. And I was wondering if you have any experience with that in the hydrostatics and lawnmowers with the shift restore.
I didn't think to use a shift restore in the hydrostatic. I went right to the FR3. So either one would work. I tested the FR3. They're 2 completely different products, but they work along the same line. So the FR3 is going to have 2 different esters and a nanocarbon. It works really well with hydraulics. The shift restore is an ester, and that's all it is. There's no nanocarbons in there, and we were trying to limit the amount of things that could go wrong. So in an automatic transmission, it's a really, really finely tuned oil. It's one of the hardest oils to make and keep on spec, just because there's so much that goes into it. So there wasn't as much opportunity for improvement with that. Where on the FR3 and the hydrostatic, there's a little bit more room to improve things. So we have tested the FR3 and the hydrostatic. I have not tested the shift restore, but we can give that a shot and see.
Okay. I'm like, well, I'm a firm believer in your products and have nothing but good things to say about them. I'm like, well, the oil in a hydrostatic, at least in my tractors, is just synthetic Mobil 1 engine oil. It's not actually an ATF. It's not an ATF. So maybe they're not as finicky as an automatic transmission in a vehicle.
They're not, and I think the reason they shipped over to an engine oil, or I'm like 90% sure, because this happens a lot, is it's more thermally stable. So a lot of times, like, transmission fluids don't get nearly as hot, and then they will oxidize. If you warm them up, and those hydrostatic drives get pretty warm. So a lot of times they'll shift over to an engine oil when it's a hot application, because one of the things that manufacturers have to do is they have to specify products that are easily available on the shelf. So normally they don't say, you have to buy the special oil. It has to be something you can go to the shelf and buy. A lot of times on truck transmissions and things like that, where they get really hot, they'll put an engine oil in it. I talked to a couple of manufacturers to ask them why, and it was really a thermal stability that they're shooting for. So that's most likely why they're using that, asking for a Mobil, just because it gets hot. It probably gets to 200 degrees, and they know that would burn up a regular fluid.
And they on those rear ends too, there's quite a few aluminum heat fins on them, and if they're belt driven, there's a pulley on the top of them. And the belt, of course, is on the pulley, and then they have a little plastic fan on there. So when the pulley's spinning, the fan's spinning, trying to keep the top of the aluminum case of the rear end cool. And so you're probably right. They probably do get quite hot. And I think with pulling that, lawn roller, it's a lot of weight that really makes that hydrostatic transmission work hard. I often wondered if maybe a regular geared transmission in a lawnmower would be a better application for pulling a lawn roller, where you just put it in one gear and it stays in there. You're not speeding up and slowing down, creating a lot of friction, which, makes heat.
Yeah, it would. I mean, the gears work better. I mean, the hydrostatic is basically a hydraulic pump. Now, the FR3, again, that'll cool that down and make it run better. But, just in general, I think that a lot of times, the gears in that kind of application might work better. But if you think about it, like even big bulldozers, those have hydrostatic drives in them. Probably a lot, might be sized better. But if that hydrostatic drive wasn't sized to pull a lawn roller, you're overworking it. It's pushing the fluid as quick as it can. Yeah.
Correct. So now what I did is I learned Dad always used to say, if it hits you hard enough in the wallet, then the light bulb comes on, And so now I go and I rent a double drum little mini asphalt roller to roll my lawn with for $100 a day. And my neighbors kind of rubberneck and look at me a little goofy when they go by and this guy's rolling his lawn on a little mini asphalt roller, but it does a better job than any pull behind thing I could ever build. And I'm not abusing my lawnmower while I'm doing it,
I'll bet it does. I did that back in my early days when I was building houses, way back in my early 20s. We had somebody that was upset with the lawn after we got the house done. They said it's still not smooth enough, and that's what we did. We went with one of those and rolled it, and everybody looked at us like we were crazy. But man, that makes it nice and flat and smooth.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I would say you could shoot pool on it when you're done, and you know exactly where your rocks are. If they're 1 inch below the surface, it's a little hard on the back. That thing rides a little rough. I don't know how them guys don't go to the chiropractor on a regular basis, because there's no suspension on them things, but it sure does a good job for that.
Yep.
Getting back to the hydrostatic, another thing I learned with that too to help keep it cooler is just to keep the dirt off it. Any of the dirt just won't let it dissipate its heat. I get underneath there with a pressure washer. I planted some trees out in my field out here, and I wanted to give them a chance and keep the grass down around them so it doesn't choke them out until they get to be established in a decent size. And well, then you get mud and dirt and stuff. It's not really lawn. It's kind of like field. Well, I'm like, I bet you that transmission's getting hot because it just can't breathe. So I learned my lesson with that. I put a little shift restore in it when I changed the fluid. And fortunately for me, I don't think there was any damage done to it. It's just as fast on the foot pedal as it was before once I changed the filters and put the new fluid in it. I'm like, I hope I didn't damage it because I stopped right away. And I thought, well, I put some shift restore in it and we'll see what happens. It's just like it was the day it was new, but I can try some FR3 in it also.
Yeah. Sounds like you got it in time, man.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for checking in. Rob in Wisconsin, I believe it was. And a quick 2-minute time out here. I'll get back to the email and your calls just ahead on the Steve Sommers Overnight Drive, live from the Hot Shot Secret Studios.
Live from the Hot Shot Secret Studios, the Steve Sommers Overnight Drive.
Some say their truck reflects who they are, dependable and reliable. That's why you trust Blue Def. Now the best just got better. Introducing Blue Def Platinum, a revolutionary innovation with advanced system shield technology to significantly reduce harmful deposits. To maintain fuel economy, save money on costly repairs, and sustain the life of your SCR system, there's only one DEF to choose. Blue Def Platinum. The best just got better.
For anything diesel, take it to Scheid Diesel. They provide a wide variety of services and diagnostics to determine what the problem is with the latest technology. From simple oil changes and preventative maintenance to fuel system diagnostics and repairs, engine rebuilds and cylinder head repairs, and rebuilds with our in-house machine shop. They also have on-site DPF cleaning for exhaust issues and DOT inspections. If your diesel is asking for some attention, Scheid Diesel has the specialist you need for anything diesel. Located in Terre Haute and Lafayette, Indiana, and Effingham, Illinois, Scheid Diesel has you covered.
You work hard. You deserve a seat that works just as hard as you do. The Bostrom T-Series seat has provided drivers with comfort for millions of miles over the past 3 decades. Each seat is built right here in the USA and has 4-position front cushion tilt and higher low-profile air suspension with Isolator. It's also equipped with many standard and optional comfort features, such as high and mid backrests, 9.4-inch 4-aft slide adjustment, adjustable armrests, and manual or dual air lumbar support systems to keep you comfortable throughout your ride. Build your T-Series seat today at BostromSeating.com and ensure your ultimate comfort for wherever the road takes you. Bostrom Seating, the ultimate comfort for the open road.
Keep the bugs off your glass and the smokies off your ass. This is the Overnight Drive with Steve Sommers.
All right, let me see here. Question number 1 from David. I have a Lincoln. I want to put some FR3 in the power steering. How much do I use? And do I need to drain some out first?
Normally, there's enough room in the power steering to put in just like 2 ounces. It does not take very much at all. I mean, literally just an ounce or 2, about the amount that would go into a shot glass. So in the past, all the times I've done it, I have not needed to drain any out. But if it's full all the way to the top, you could put a paper towel in there, just pull enough out to put a little bit in.
Okay. Get turkey baster or something. Suck a little bit out. Let me see here. Hey, Chris, my motorcycle holds 3.5 quarts of oil. How much Stiction Eliminator should I put in there? I guess I've got one of the 32-ounce bottles here, and it says treats 16 quarts of oil. So what do you think, 7 ounces maybe, something like that?
Yeah, about 6 or 7 ounces.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. And next up is Gilligan. What's happening, Gilligan?
Oh, not much there, Steve. And good morning, Steve and Chris, and thank you for taking my call. Yeah, I got a question for you, Chris. I've got that 05 F-150 I've spoken to you before on, and you're talking about putting the the FR3 and stuff into the power steering. I've had to put literally 2 racket pinions in this thing. It's got like 148,000 miles on it. I bought the truck over 10 years ago with 53,000 on it. Soon after I got it, a seal started leaking. About 10,000 miles ago, the seals went out again, and the only way to fix that is to replace the racket pinion. We're talking a $500 bill to put a racket pinion in this thing. Would your transmission fixed, as it does take transmission fluid, or the FR3 help protect those seals?
Yes. So if it's, I'm assuming that those seals are drying out somehow and then kind of like leaking or weeping around them, that they're not actually cracking and breaking apart, because it takes a long time for that to happen. And one of the natural properties of an ester, a group 5 ester, is that they swell seals up just a little bit, like 2 to 5%, not, anything to do anything bad. So yes, it would. If you keep that in there, or just put some into the power steering, it should keep those seals rejuvenated, and keep them pliable and fresh.
Okay. Maybe you ought to just expand on that more. This is an idea for advertising, because you're talking about how it does help the bearings and the rings and stuff in the motors and the gears and the transmission and stuff like that. But maybe just an idea, it would also help your seals, if that makes sense. Just the marketing tip from an old West Virginia hillbilly. What can I say?
No, that's good. We need to have that call out in there, and it's one of those areas that we've not matured in. Sometimes it's just trying to keep up with everything that's going on day to day. But that's we really need to develop those ideas out and work on that.
Well, that's about all I got. But thank you for sponsoring the show, Chris. We really appreciate it. I've been a long-time fan of Steve. I listened to him back when he was on the weekends and producing for his Spruce Dad. I started back in about 99, and I started listening to him about that same time. Well, you all take care, and I probably won't talk to you till then. Hope you have a Merry Christmas, Chris. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gilligan. There you go. All right, we're almost to the news break, bottom of the hour. It's 844-844-3388. I don't know if you could answer the question or not. First, the story, Chris, but police in Kansas City, Missouri, investigating a single vehicle crash that claimed the life of 2 a little after 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon. Now, the truck driver traveling westbound on I-70 lost control exiting onto I-435, causing the semi to overturn onto the left side. It caught fire. It wasn't the trailer. It was the actual tractor that caught fire, and both of them perished in the blaze there. It seems like, and I've talked to several drivers who say they believe that these, I don't know, the DPF systems, these regen systems or whatever, that are running very, very hot, these newer engines, and we're seeing a lot more incidents where a diesel spill that I guess historically would not combust, but there's such extreme heat under the hood of some of these engines now that we're seeing an awful lot of big rig fires. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I've not looked into that, but I know that, diesel fuel has a fairly high flash point, the point where it just wants to combust. That's why, like gasoline, like a car rolls over, it can explode because of the gas, but diesel doesn't do that. It almost needs a wick to burn. Like you could, and not that anybody should do this, but you could throw a match inside a bowl of diesel fuel and the match just goes out.
I've heard that.
But if you put a wick in it, well, yeah, if you think about it, it's like kind of like kerosene. If you put a wick in it and the wick will burn, it'll draw the diesel up in and burn off. But it's just, gasoline is the fumes that are actually burning, because it's, if you had if you spill gasoline, it smells horrible. I mean, it just evaporates and fills the room. That's what's burning. It's the fumes. But on diesel, it doesn't really work that way. So I don't admit the DPFs do get really, really hot, and that could be adding to it. But I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I'll do a little bit of research.
Yeah, just under the industry headlines, just throwing that out there. But okay, we're going to get a news break and come back on the home stretch here, a Friday morning, the Steve Sommers Overnight Drive.
It's Steve, and yes, I'm off this morning, but here's a replay of one of our interviews with the founder and CEO of Hot Shot Secret, Chris Gabrelchik.
You'll never guess the places that
USA Radio News.
President Joe Biden is seeking Supreme Court nominee advice amid criticism to nominate the first black woman to the country's highest court. Senator Ted Cruz and Senator Roger Wicker spoke to ABC News.
The fact that he's willing to make a promise at the outset that it must be a black woman, I got to say that's offensive. It's actually an insult to black women.
The irony is that the Supreme Court is at the very same time hearing cases about this sort of affirmative racial discrimination.
A recent ABC News poll shows 76% of Americans want Biden to consider all candidates. Pfizer is asking U.S. regulators to authorize extra low doses of its COVID-19 vaccine for children under 5. The move could open the way for the very youngest Americans to start receiving shots in March. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, I'm Wayne Alaroot for Patriot Vpn. Patriot Vpn is a virtual private network service that uses military-grade encryption to protect your internet connection on all of your devices. With Patriot VPN, your data and internet privacy is secure anywhere in the world. Why do you need Patriot VPN? Cyber criminals, government, even your own internet service provider collect and use your private information without your knowledge. Examples in the news recently, remember all the companies that have been hacked? Cuba censored the internet to kill protests? Here in America, conservative groups are being actively targeted. Your personal information and internet history is being sold by your ISP. It's all happening every day, but not with Patriot VPN. With Patriot VPN, your internet activity and history is protected from prying eyes forever. Patriot VPN is a veteran-owned business right here in the USA. For business or your family, starting at only $6.95 a month, use code WAR and get 3 months free. With an annual subscription, it's all at PatriotVPN.com. That's PatriotVPN.com.
Super Bowl tickets are on sale, and if you plan on seeing the game in person, it will cost you a pretty penny.
It'll cost more than $6,000 for a seat in the nosebleed section to watch the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 56. Secondary markets like StubHub and Ticketmaster are selling seats in the top level of SoFi Stadium for at least $5,500 plus almost another $1,000 in fees. The really good seats are going for around $78,000. From the USA Radio News Phoenix Bureau, I'm Tim Berg.
A majority of people say there's a growing cancel culture that threatens freedom, according to the latest Foundation for Individual Rights in Education poll. While 73% of respondents acknowledged having heard of the phrase cancel culture, there were 59% who were convinced it's growing and a threat to liberties in America. You're listening to USA Radio News.
Hi, this is Dr. Joel Wallach, and I want to tell you that arthritis is not a genetic thing. It's not a disease of aging. Neither is osteoporosis. Get a hold of my book. It's all in your head. It goes into the 25 different diseases you get when you have osteoporosis of the skull. These are all reversible. You take the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the MSM, vitamin D3, stay away from all the bad foods, including gluten, and guess what? You'll regrow all your bones, including your skull and your legs and your hips and everything else. Contact us at usaradiohealth.com. That's usaradiohealth.com.
A federal judge has rejected a hate crimes plea deal for Greg and Travis McMichael.
A federal judge rejected a plea agreement Monday that would have averted hate crimes trial for father and son Travis and Greg McMichael, convicted of murder for fatally shooting Ahmaud Arbery, whose parents angrily objected to the deal. The deal would have allowed the convicts to go to federal prison. The family of Arbery want them in state prison.
I told them that I wanted them to go to state prison and do their time that Judge Wansper gave them on the 7th of January.
From the West Coast USA Radio News Bureau, I'm Lance Pry.
A major winter storm is expected to affect a huge portion of the U.S. Heavy snow is forecast to start in the Rockies, while freezing rain will pelt Texas. The storm will then move on to dump snow and ice on the Midwest. More than a foot of snow is forecast in places. Airlines grounded more than 1,000 flights scheduled for Wednesday. A suspected gunman is now in custody after 2 campus officers were fatally shot at a private liberal arts college in Virginia on Tuesday. In an email to students, faculty, and staff, Bridgewater College President David Bushman identified the victims as police officer John Painter and safety officer J.J. Jefferson. The gunman allegedly shot the officers around 1:20 Tuesday afternoon and ran away. And fired Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores has sued the NFL and 3 of its teams, alleging racist hiring practices by the league. For USA Radio News, I'm Katie Lewis.
All right, going to get right back to the calls. I did just get an email here a couple minutes ago from Rob, a listener. Guessing he just tuned in here recently. It was, Chris, I was wondering how your tire machine project is coming along.
Well, we got touched on this in the first hour. We are slowly making progress. We are running things, and what's happened is because it's a new invention, there was a lot of little bugs in it, like different things weren't communicating well with other things. Some of the sensors didn't work. So we've been replacing those things and getting it fixed. So at present, we're running it. We've got the microwave applicator, the microwave generators fired up, and we're processing just pure carbon black through it to adjust the feeds and the speeds on it to make sure that the right amount of power is hitting it. And then hopefully they've got all that done this week. And then next week we'll start running tire shreds through it. If not, it'll be the week after that.
So
we're making progress.
Gradually,
by the end of this month.
Slowly but surely making progress. And like I said, it's a big deal, big thing. All right, back to the calls here. And I'm not seeing a name, but somebody calling about the Blue Diamond, it says here.
Hey, Steve.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me over?
Yes,
morning.
sir.
I got a question about this Blue Diamond oil. Chris, is that your oil?
Yes, that's our oil. We blend it. We made it, the whole nine.
I'm a truck driver, and my brother's a mechanic. So, we ain't going to get along at all. Truck drivers and mechanics never get along. Okay. He was talking to me about an oil that could handle the heat cycles, over and over and over again. And I'm like, well, I just changed my oil every 10,000 miles. He said, yeah, and you waste a lot of money. So, is your oil designed to take those heat cycles over and over and over again? You start the truck, you run the truck, the oil gets hot, and then you stop the truck, shut the truck off. Next thing you know, the oil back down to wherever it's going and then back up again. And to me, that always was hard, real hard on the oil. My brother says, no, it's not. Oil is oil and never goes bad. It's the base that goes bad. So we was having this large discussion over some adult beverages, and you can understand where that went. 2 brothers.
Oh, yeah. Those, hey, in my family, there were 7 of us, 6 of us boys. So that's, that goes without saying. So the additives are usually the first thing to bake out or to shear out of grade. The oil will shear over time. And the idea would be you've got carbon and hydrogen bonds, and the weaker the base oil that you start with, the weaker those bonds are. So this is real easy it's real easy to picture. You have carbon as a solid, hydrogen as a gas. When you break that bond, the hydrogen becomes a gas and floats away. The carbon leaves a deposit behind inside your engine. So the cheaper, like if we were making oil, the cheaper the oil I bought, or the weaker the base oil. So there's group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the cheaper I went, the faster that oil would break down. Now, the things that are going to happen ahead of time are going to be the additives that are in it are going to bake out, and then the VI improvers are going to bake out. But if you use a full synthetic, like the PAO synthetic that we're talking about, that blue diamond, it is near impossible to get it to break. When I say near impossible, I mean, just to give you some rough hours in a lab, we have a test called a D943, and it checks the oxidation point of different oils. And, basically kind of boils the oil with some zinc metal in it and a little bit of water, and you can tell how long it will last. So group 1 base oil, which is the cheapest naphthenic base oil, it smells kind of like naphtha, that would last about 1,000 hours. A group 2, which is what most of the inexpensive engine oils you'd buy off the shelf would be a group 2. Those would last about 2,000 hours in that laboratory test before they would oxidize. Now, group 3, which is any synthetic oil you buy on the shelf, Mobil, Chevron, anything, it's going to be a group 3. They call that a synthetic. So group 3 will last about 5,000 hours. Now, 5,000 is a lot better than 2,000. I mean, that's 2.5 times. But if you take a group 4, a PAO base oil, it will last 40 to 50,000 hours. So you've just gone way off the scale as far as its ability to not oxidize. I mean, from 5,000 to 40,000 is a huge jump. So hope that gives you some idea of what's going on there.
Yeah. Okay, and that's what I was wanting to know, because me and him had been, he's in Antarctica right now, so I get a break. He's down there mechanicking for somebody. So I had a little testimonial to give you. Truck drivers and mechanics, like I said, don't usually get along. So I take this Peterbilt to the Peterbilt shop, and I hand it to the mechanic. And I turn around and walk away so I don't say nothing that's going to get me in trouble. Okay? Mechanic takes it in there, and he's doing some work on my engine. I get 3 days later, I get a call from the nice fella up front and said, your truck's run, bring money with you. So I get up there, and there's a note on the front of my bill that says, I want to talk to the driver. So I go out there, and I talk to him. He's asking me what in the world that I'm using in my motor to keep it so clean, because I got 1.9 million miles on the motor. It was rebuilt at 1 million. He asked me if it'd just been rebuilt. I said, no. I said, it's got 900,000 miles on that rebuild right now. And he said, well, I want to know what you're doing to it. I said, I can't tell you. It's a secret. And he said, he goes, no, seriously, man. He said, we're getting a lot of people that's coming and bringing their equipment out of mothballs. And he said, and next thing you know, they're in here with all. He said, 900,000 miles. I ain't been in an A-cert that's that clean. And I went and got one of the empty bottles, and I gave it to him. And I said, see, it says right there on the bottle, secret. You're not supposed to tell nobody. And he looked at me, and he said, that's all you're doing? I said, well, the way I understand it, it's a heavy detergent. It cleans everything out, keeps it clean. He said, well, I'll testify to one thing to you. That is the cleanest A-cert I have stuck my fingers in. And that's a Caterpillar mechanic. So that's not a truck driver giving you a testimonial. That's the guy that actually sticks his fingers down inside the motor, and he's saying it does its job. Well, didn't have to sell it to me. I've been using it for years. But, but he wanted to keep the bottle because he wanted to show it to some of them other guys and tell them what he had found in my motor. And
that guy should be a dealer for us.
Yeah.
Well, Steve was talking earlier about who would be a dealer, a direct dealer. That's my guy right there. We give him 5 or 6 cases, he becomes a dealer, and then he can have it there on hand for people. But, that is not the first time I've heard that story. I had another guy who was almost identical to that, and he said the mechanic just could not believe. He said this engine looks brand new. It looks like it just came out of a crate. He said, what are you doing? He did the same thing. He said, I'm using Hot Shot Secret. It is a really amazing product. I didn't even realize how amazing it was until we started going to other companies and showing them what we had, and they were like, "Holy smokes, this is really good." So yeah, you're dead on right there.
I took a 1990 model truck that had been sitting for 12 years, hadn't run in 12 years. I brought it around. The first thing I did is I put your product in that 1990 model motor. Okay. And I drove that truck for 4 years, and I replaced one injector that the spring broke on, but none of the other stuff. Everything just started working correctly. And when I replaced that injector down in Houston, Texas, I did it in the parking lot. And I don't like people touching my motor too much. And a mechanic came around and was looking at it. And he said, wow, this thing just been rebuilt. I said, no, it ain't. Been sitting behind the barn for 12 years. He said, ain't no way. He said, you're lying. I said, well, okay then. I can't convince somebody don't want to be convinced, But and I showed him what I was using on it down there. I'm a firm believer in your product, and can't thank you enough for having Steve back on. And Steve, I lost you there for a while, and I was griping at a truck stop about how I couldn't find you. And some guy showed me how to get you on my phone because so I could listen to you every night. Now I'm happy again. See, I was happy, then I was sad. Now I'm happy again.
I'm glad to hear it. That's right. Well, help spread the word there. That's what it's all about.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you telling me about that Blue Diamond, because that's something I'm going to bring up with him in one of our next talks, because he's a research guy. He likes to research everything. So I'm going to have him do some research and may just switch out to that rather than this, shelf-bought oil, because I would like to go to the extended changes. I hate changing oil.
You could, if you put a bypass filter on there, I mean, it sounds crazy, but you can go 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles on an oil change. It's so hard because our brains are so conditioned to think that, you can't do it. But I had personally seen like the oil analysis. I had a guy, this was probably 5 years ago, because we just moved a new building. He had a Caterpillar engine with twin turbos, and he called me up and said his oil analysis came through, and I was looking at it, and it was still good. I mean, the iron was low, the viscosity was in great, everything was looking good. And he called me up. He said, man, he goes, I got 200,000 miles on this oil. And he said, it still looks good. The oil analysis comes. He goes, should I go ahead and change it anyway just because it's got 200,000 miles? I'm like, man, Randy, I mean, throw a brother a bone here, man. It's 5 gallons of oil. Give me a little bit of help. So he ends up changing the oil, but I don't really know that he had to. I think he just did it as a favor to me. But I mean, you should have seen the oil analysis. I mean, we've seen them come through at 200,000 miles, and it still looks. I mean, it literally looks as good as somebody who took an oil analysis at 15,000 miles. If you took Shell Rotella at 15,000 and compared it to this one at 200,000, this one was better. And it can be done. It just takes a little bit of savviness. You know what I mean? You gotta do the oil analysis. You gotta have a bypass filter. You gotta put the TDM booster in. But compared to changing your oil every 10, 15, 20,000 miles, it's a breeze.
Well, I'm a 10 guy. I was raised by my grandfather, and he was a firm believer in 10, and I still am today. And of course, my little brother, he's telling me, man, I've never seen a man waste so much money in my life. So I'm looking at it. I'm slow, but I'm looking at it.
That's all right. Hey, you have a comfort level. Do an oil analysis. That's the first step is, check. They're like $20 or on our website, or just call the 800 number and get it. But if you check it at 10,000 miles, it'll tell you what the oil looks like. And this is for everybody that's out there driving, because I know when I was driving, that was my number one expense was, my vehicle and my gas and my diesel. But if you just check it once or twice, it will tell you based on your engine and your driving habits how often you need to change oil. So like I may drive your truck and it needs to be changed every 10,000 miles. You may drive it and it's every 20,000. But you don't have to do an oil analysis every time. Just have to do it a couple times, and it'll tell you, hey, the acids are building up, the iron's building up. It's time to change oil. Well, that might be 10,000 miles. It might be 20. But once you do it once or twice, you'll have a high level of comfort to where you'll be able to say, okay, I know that, generally speaking, this oil is good to 20, or it's good to 15, or maybe it is 10. Maybe that's the right number.
Okay. All righty. Well, I've got bypass filters. I got 2 of them sitting in the shop that I still in the crate I bought years ago and just never put them on.
Oh, yeah.
So
I've
got them in there. So, all righty. I appreciate your time.
Okay, man. Have a great Christmas.
Thank you much. Yes. Have a great morning. Good weekend. Wheelchair Dave, how the heck are you?
Well, good morning there, fellas. How are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Chris, how's everything down there in Florida?
Man, this place is addictive. I feel guilty, but once you get down here, it's just so, the sun's shining all the time. Where I'm at in Ohio, up at Mount Gilead, we just get a lot of cloud cover, and you just out doing stuff all the time.
Whereabouts in Florida there are you?
I'm down in Venice. It's, between Sarasota and Fort Myers. Just one of the little communities halfway between.
Steve likes to tease me because when it gets too cold here in Georgia, I go down to my little place there, Leeward Air Ranch / Silver Spring Shores. So I guess you haven't been able to find any Amish donuts down there where you're at.
No, they don't have Amish donuts. I haven't seen any Amish people. They do have a lot of French, though. We got French pastries, and I don't know, man. These French people may have these Amish guys beat. I don't know.
What? Better than Eight Sisters Bakery? No way.
Let's put it this way. One of those donuts at Eight Sisters Bakery is like 8 of these French pastries, especially the ones that have bacon on it. If you get one of them big cream sticks with bacon, I'm telling you what, that's a breakfast right there.
Chris, thanks again so much for sponsoring Overnight Drive. It's really, really much appreciated, not only by Steve, but his entire audience, and just grow. Now, you being a Buckeye, though, I got to ask your thoughts on that Osu Michigan game.
It's going to sound really crazy, but I don't pay that much attention to football. How can I do that? I don't know, man. It's like there's so much going on, I just forget about it. But I did hear on the radio that it upset all the odds makers.
The odds makers, the standings, yep.
Old Jim Harbaugh up there in Michigan decided to take his $500,000 bonus. That's what they get, a $500,000 bonus, whether it's the Buckeyes winning or Michigan winning. Those coaches, he decided to give his $500,000 to trickle down to his staff. So that was
wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty good gesture there.
I'm impressed.
The other thing here, I wanted to, I catch you when I do have the TV on. I do watch one of my favorite TV go-tos is that RFD TV, and you're all over that. Your products and all the shows that you sponsor and stuff on that cable network or whatever you want to call that. You're all over that, and I appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you. We're always looking for ways to find our audience and educate. It's one of the rougher parts about this is, I always feel like our customers are a little bit more educated than the norm. So, trying to keep marketing focused on education and getting the word out and explaining how things work. And I think that in marketing school, they just lean towards promotion. This is great. This is the real stuff. And I said, I don't really think that works. I mean, our folks are pretty savvy. I mean, they understand a lot. If you're, in a truck or if you're a farmer, it takes a lot of mental bandwidth to stay ahead of the game. It kind of bothers me sometimes that I think the public like stereotypes them as, dumb truckers or dumb farmers. And it's like, man, you guys don't understand. These people are small businessmen. I mean, they're loading $100,000 into their business or $200,000 to buy a truck. It's not, there's a lot of serious thinking that goes into all this. I mean, they understand fuel economy, understand cost of the equipment. They're thinking about all this as they're driving down the road. Don't think of it that way. So it's same way with farmers. I mean, again, some of the most intelligent people I've ever spoken with have been either truck drivers or farmers. And it's, I don't think they ever get the fair shake that they deserve.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, Luck, I'm going to try to squeeze Rooster in here. Go ahead, Rooster.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Chris.
Morning, buddy.
I just joined the program this morning, man, and I always love listening to some of your topics, man. You're very knowledgeable about your stuff, and I love your products. I've been using them for over a year now, and
great.
I've been trying to get some of it's kind of it ain't WD-40, but it's the type of lubricant that you've come up with. But every time I've tried to order it, they seem to be out of it. The last couple of times they said they couldn't get the cans, and I didn't know if y'all ever got any of that in or not.
No, we touched on this earlier. That's the one product that is out of stock until they can get the cans. Now we can get it in like smaller quantities, like a quart bottle, or a gallon or something like that. But the spray can is the issue, and I'm assuming they come from China. I don't know, but
okay.
They just said. But it's been, started off. It'll be a 2-week delay. You're talking about the Never Rust. And,
Never Rust.
Yeah. So they, started off. It'll be 2 weeks, and it was 6 weeks, and it was 8 weeks, and then it was, we don't know when we're going to get it. We have no delivery date right now. So.
Okay. Well, I didn't hear you all earlier, so I just been in and out of the truck a little bit this morning, so I didn't hear that. So I wasn't trying to be redundant, but I'll tell you what I can do. I guess that's the case. I can order it, I guess, and put it in the, regular bottle and use it like that, couldn't I?
Yeah, you can. I mean, we thought about that, trying to look for alternatives. Why this hiccup in the supply chain happens? I'll need to, make sure it's on there. I got to pull it up in front of me and just make sure that they do have it on the website. Yeah, they have it in gallons and 9 ounce, but we may go ahead and offer a quart of it or something just to get by this. So,
I'll tell you what really turned me on to it. I had a friend of mine that had a little bit left in can one night. We was trying to slide tandems on his trailer, and he said, I ain't putting none of this on probably 5-6 months. He'd been running a bunch of rain, and he said, just spray a little bit back there extra on them tandems, and he said, it'll break free in no time. And he said, I usually don't even have to have nobody help me. And I said, oh, you're crazy. And so we sprayed some back around it, and I mean, when he went to slide, man, that thing, it was like it was on power steering back there. I had never seen tandems slide that easy with that kind of lubricant on it. And I'm like, I got to get some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good story. And we, earlier I was talking about how, we don't introduce anything with our name on unless it's the best of the best and it's way better than everything else out there. That was one of those products that we held back on for years until we were able to come up with something that was truly better than everything else out on the market. And that's a tough space. There's a lot of spray lubricants out there between Liquid Wrench and WD-40. Yeah. There's so many different options, but this one really, that stuff works great.
All right. Well, Rooster, thank you so much for the call. And as soon as I get word or whatever, we'll pass it on that, the cans are back in and it'll be back in stock. But, well, unless we're going to go into overtime, Chris, we've reached the end of another program.
Well, fastest 5 hours of my life, once a month.
Well, it's great talking with you, and if I don't talk to you before Christmas, Merry Christmas, and we'll miss you at the party. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, me and the princess, we got to get up there and see you guys.
We should do that. Just come up and we'll go out to dinner or something.
All right. Well, with that, we are at the 5 o'clock hour, and thank you much. Chris Gabrelchik will chat with you whatever day it is coming in January. I don't know, the first of the year. It may be the second Friday or something because New Year's is on like Saturday. So I don't know, maybe it'd be like the 6th, something like that. We'll work it out. But thank you very much. Have a great day and get some rest, and we'll chat with you in January.
Thank you, buddy. You have a good weekend.
Thank you very much. All right. 1 minute past the hour. Overtime, right? The Steve Sommers Overnight Drive live from the Hot Shot Secret Studio.
never guess the places that I've been. You never guess the places that I've been. 'Cause everything is like a dream, yeah, but only in that dream that I live in. I'm never gonna let the day begin. Never gonna let the day begin. 'Cause everything is like a dream, yeah, but only in that dream that I live in. Oh, don't wake me up before you go, and I'll just make this bed my home. Oh, darling, please just let me sleep. Give me my dreams. Better from above. Nothing's ever as it seems, yeah, except in that world that I dream of. Never gonna lose the ones I love. Never gonna lose the ones I love. 'Cause everything is like a dream, yeah, but only in that world that I dream of. Oh, don't up before you go, 'cause I can't face this day alone. Oh, darling, please just let me sleep. Give me my dreams. Give me my dreams.